I'm late, y'all. What's up? What's up? What's up? What's up, y'all? Come on in the room. Come on in here. Don't leave me hanging by myself. Don't do that. Don't do that. We're talking about HIV healing, talking about our stories. Come on in the room. 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 Oh, come on in the room. Yeah. I'm not gonna start until somebody. I need just one person. Just one person. Come on in the room, y'all. Let's talk. Let's have a conversation. I don't know if my other people are gonna come on or not. Let's have a conversation, y'all. Let us have a conversation. Good morning, or good evening, actually. Good evening, y'all. Say hi. Make sure somebody say hi. Make sure you can hear me. We'll make sure this audio is all right on here. Just want to have a little conversation with y'all. I'm gonna start trying to go live like once a week and see what happens. I don't know if Levette is up here or not, but yeah. What's up, y'all? Let me see. I don't know if my other collaborators are gonna come on or not. But we're gonna do. I just need somebody to let me know if you can hear me. If you guys can hear me on here. If you guys can hear me, what does this mean? Co-hosting. I don't know. Somebody just let me know. Can you hear me? I just want to make sure the audio is working before I get started. Somebody just let me know. Can you hear? Good evening, y'all. Good evening. Good evening. Yeah, I still get nervous. I don't do live much. I need to start doing it more often. I want to start doing it more often, you know. We just doing, I just want to come on here and talk to you guys. I'm going to get started in just a little bit. But just welcome you guys. Come on, we just have a conversation about HIV, HIV healing and some other topics. I got my little notes and stuff like that. You know what I mean? But it's 7:04. I'll go ahead and get started. So for those, because I think this was recorded. For those who don't know, hi, if you follow me, my name is Dominique. I'm HIV positive. I have been positive now since 2007. September 14th, 2007 was the day that I found out that I was HIV positive. So it's been a little over 18 years for me. So we're going on 2 decades. And what's up, y'all? Just somebody let me know if you can't hear me. Cause I want to be doing all this talking and y'all can't hear. And so in September 14th again was the day of September 14th, 2007 was my diagnosis day. And so last year, okay, good. And last year, in September, it had really been pulling on me. I had been really felt a pull on me through the Lord to start sharing my story openly, because I know there has been a purpose for me in doing so. And so last September, on the anniversary day of my diagnosis, I shared my story. I just did a TikTok post and I said, hey, I'm HIV positive, and I've been sharing my story and talking about HIV, the awareness and the education consistently since that time. That's really the driving purpose for my content. And so in doing so and being open and sharing my story and being an advocate for HIV, I wanted to make sure that moving forward, I start trying to go live, once a week or twice a week, just to, have a discussion, just talk about the stigma, to educate, and definitely have a Q&A. So if you guys who are on here, if you guys have questions, throw them in the chat and I'll try to answer them to the best of my ability. I have some notes here because I didn't want to be all over the place or whatever. I kind of already talked about why I started speaking out. For me, online on social media, I'll be 40 next week on March the 12th. And in my years of being on social media, granted, I came from a generation where there was no TikTok or anything beforehand, so just moving into it. And I don't really see people on social media talking about HIV in not necessarily a positive way, but not in the manner of, you know, these stories where, you know, someone gave it to them and it's always a negative type of connotation behind HIV. And I wanted to give my perspective, especially as someone who has lived or has been living with HIV for as long as I have, more of an insight from a real life perspective, you know what I mean? Versus the, you know, oh, I contracted HIV because, you know, this man or this woman gave it to me, you know, those type of stories. Those things happen, but I really wanted to shift the narrative in the way that I can about HIV, right? There is still a huge stigma about HIV that I've seen online and in real life. You know what I mean? The assumptions that people have, and you guys can put your comments or questions in if you want. The assumptions and the narrative that people have, a lot of it comes from ignorance. And I don't mean to use the word ignorant as such a negative word, but ignorance just simply means void of knowledge. You know, a lot of people don't have knowledge about HIV and how it works and the differences between that and AIDS. We'll get into all of that later. You know what I mean? So I really feel like moving forward, especially in the culture that we live in now, is a very sex driven type culture. You know what I mean? Sex is everywhere. And granted, sexual contact is not the only way that HIV is contracted, but we know largely that's, you know, how it's widespread. You know what I mean? So I just thought it was a purpose for me, even if it's only even if I only get the word out to a couple of people, you know, just to kind of share my truth and share the truth about HIV. Hey, what's up, everybody that's joining in? I wanted to talk. I had some collaborators, some creators that I appreciate that, you know, and I want to touch on that, the Lord's work, because like I said, it was nothing but the Lord that really gave me the confidence to openly share my story. Because y'all don't know, it's really when someone has something like HIV and you're openly sharing it online, you know, these people online, they are ruthless. They'll say whatever, you know what I mean? And me having HIV came with a lot of having shame, you know what I mean, behind it. But I stand in full confidence now. Like, I know who I am. I know HIV is not my whole identity. It's not my driving point. Is just a condition that I have. You feel me? But I wanted to get in, and like I said, if y'all have questions, feel free, because I'm kind of going off of my little notes, because I kind of ramble sometimes, and I didn't want to be like all over the place. You know what I mean? But I really wanted to talk about one of my first things I wanted to talk about was some of the biggest misconceptions about HIV, right? There's a lot of verbiage that gets used or gets misused when someone says that they have HIV. So I am, again, I'm HIV positive, right? I have heard and been told that people go around or have went around and said that I have AIDS, right? Because people use HIV and AIDS as if it's the same, and it's not, right? HIV is a virus, right? And it stands for human immunodeficiency virus, right? That virus now, especially in 2026, can be controlled, or not really controlled, can be managed, right? Through medication, right? We don't live in the 80s or the early 90s where there wasn't a lot of medication to where, as in, if you did get HIV, you know, a lot of times it would develop into what's called AIDS. AIDS is immunodeficient virus, right? That is someone who has HIV, whether they knew they had it or not, and they are not on treatment, and the virus Because basically what HIV does, it attacks your immune system, right? So a lot of times when you hear people die from AIDS, they don't really necessarily die from AIDS. They die from an illness that AIDS caused, and their body couldn't fight it off, right? So you can say, a lot of times they'll say like they die from AIDS-related pneumonia, you know what I mean? Or AIDS-related something else, you know what I mean? Because the virus, what HIV, in the simplest terms I could do it, HIV attacks the white blood cells that we all have, that helps fight off disease. So when people have HIV and they're not on treatment, what the virus is doing is attacking those white blood cells, and it's basically ship-shifting, if I can say, those white blood cells and making them the virus. And it basically is just like, okay, well, let me attack this cell, you know what I mean? And that's what the medication is for, is to help kill the virus so that it doesn't replicate in your body. You know what I mean? But the misconception of the lingo and the verbiage is that when someone says they have HIV, that people automatically assume that they're saying they have AIDS. That is not the same thing. Those two things are not the same thing at all, right? I don't have AIDS. I have HIV, right? My HIV also has gotten to invited to a point where invited to the point where just send me a message real quick before I invite inviting people up. But my condition, which a lot of people who do get on treatment, what happens is the virus, the HIV virus, we get our viral load checked. For me, I go to the doctor every other month, because I am no longer on a shot. On a pill. I don't take a pill every day anymore, because my viral load has been suppressed. Suppressed just simply means that the viral load in me is not enough to where I can I can pass it to someone else, even through sex, right? I'm not saying I can deliberately, but like through sex, the chances of me passing HIV are slim to none, because I have what they call an undetectable viral load. That's not saying I don't have the virus at all. It just means that the viral load is undetectable. There are some HIV tests, especially like the over-the-counter ones, that I can take, that I may show up negative, right? But I'll start inviting people in just a second. Just want to give a few minutes to kind of get the live started. But a lot of people, I was out doing karaoke the other week. I do karaoke from time to time, and one of my classmates, we linked up. Well, she just happened to be there. We were talking, and a lot of my classmates didn't know, because I got HIV fairly soon after high school. I was 21. And so a lot of my classmates, until I started sharing my story openly last year, didn't know that I had been living with HIV as well. You know what I mean? And we were talking, and she didn't know that people could become, or could through medication or through treatment, can become undetectable. You know what I mean? And that just serves the purpose for why I do what I do now, is sharing and being an educator, because I think a lot of people still understand or assume, especially from the narrative about it, on the way HIV is displayed or narrated on TV. Is like, boom, you get HIV, it's going to go into AIDS, and then you're going to die. You know what I mean? And it's not like that. You know what I mean? I have lived for almost 2 decades with the condition, and I'm still here. You know what I mean? Living and thriving. You know what I mean? Yeah, so I talked about the undetectable and the equals untransmittable. I do want to also kind of touch on that HIV, the way that it's spread, right? There was some conversations I had with some people that I associate with, who thought that it could be spread through saliva, or like just casual. Hold on, I gotta turn my car on. I lost my light. I'm sitting in the car because my nephew's My nephews are inside, and I didn't want them to. They don't need to hear what I got going on. You know, they're young, but I hope y'all can still hear me. But that y'all just somebody put it in. Just make sure you still hear me. But they what I was saying. Oh yeah, about the HIV being spread through like casual contact, like touching and um breathing air as the same people. Like HIV is not spread through that way. You know what I mean? You can't contract HIV from even somebody kissing you. You can't. You know what I mean? There is a rare case where that can happen. There would have to be open sores in both people's mouths. The person who has HIV would have to have like an extremely high viral load, right? HIV is transmitted through blood, through semen, and through breast milk, right? That's how HIV is spread if you're doing the sexual way. You can also get HIV through if I don't know what you can say on TikTok, but through sharing uh, you know, shooting up and stuff, sharing the same kind of equipment. I'm trying to make it so where I don't get banned from TikTok. You know what I mean? But those are ways that you can spread, or HIV can be passed from one person to another. You know what I mean? It cannot be passed through just casual contact, breathing the same air. Because let me be clear. The last study that I saw from the CDC is that one in 8 people are living with HIV. 1 in 8, right? That's not to scare anybody, but I'm just saying HIV is out there. Now there is a good portion of people who do not know that they have HIV because they don't get tested, right? One of the way I found out I was HIV positive is I went and I didn't see any signs. There was nothing happening to me. I didn't see any lesions or anything. As a matter of fact, I had went and got tested 6 months prior because I tried back then. I tried to get tested, twice a year. You know what I mean? It doesn't mean you're out here sleeping with everybody, but it's just a precaution because certain viruses can take weeks or even months before it shows up. So you don't want to just get a HIV test, once in a year and just like think everything's okay. Especially if you are out there, having fun time situations and stuff. You want to get tested quite, I would say regularly, but quite often. You know what I mean? And I went in March of 2007, got tested, nothing. I was negative all across the board. 6 months later, I decided, hey, it's been 6 months. Let me just go get tested again. And boom, everything was negative except for I was positive with HIV, right? So, the treatment, what I'm saying today is that the treatment for HIV has advanced so much that, I'll share a story, like, because one thing about the HIV virus, just to share with you guys, it's a very, very smart virus. So, like, for me, I'm on a shot now, so I go every other month to get a shot. But even with that, or like people who take the pills, if we don't consistently stay on our regimen of taking the pills, what HIV will start doing is developing a way to resist the medication, right? So if I'm not, say, there have been times where I was on a daily pill regimen and I wasn't taking it every day regularly. I would go skip a couple of days. I'll get into that because it has a lot to do with the mental health part of having HIV. But then what happens is the HIV virus will figure out a way to block the medication, if I'm using the simplest term. And so you're taking a medication and it's not doing anything to fight out the virus. But fortunately now there's so many medications for HIV that if one treatment stops working, the doctors, again, this is a reason why if you're on HIV, you need to go and get your lab work test done, and get your lab work done, and have your blood work and viral load checked regularly, so that you can make sure that the medication you are on is working. You don't even have to be inconsistent with the medication. Sometimes it may just not work anymore, so they have to put you on something else. You know what I mean?
But in today's world, listen, especially if anybody ever sees this, that first of all, let me put a pinpoint. If you're watching this, and first of all, everybody should get tested. Period. Right? It's just if you have had fun times, especially unprotected fun times, you're doing other things that could put you at risk. Get tested for HIV. Do not let the fear of the results hold you back, because if you do happen to have HIV and you don't know and you don't get on treatment, it could be a lot worse. You know what I mean? I'm telling you, it could be a lot worse. Um, so please, y'all, please give me a heart or something, like, so I know y'all hear me. Like, get tested. It's so I cannot plead with you guys enough, especially in this younger culture, these younger kids, the youth that are out here, they're having fun times way earlier, and they're not, their parents or their guardians, they're not showing them the way or giving them the truth about what it is. You know what I mean? I know a 60-year-old, he's already gotten the STD already. You know what I mean? I'm just saying, it's already happened. So you gotta make sure that you're getting tested, right? Because again, if you do wind up contracting HIV, it is not. I'm not trying to say this lightly, because I live with HIV and I understand, but at the same time, it's not the end of the world. You can get on treatment and you can live a normal life. Because I do. Like I say, I'm almost 20 years in. You know what I mean? Um, but what I wanted to, I guess the biggest part of what I want to talk about, I saw a video of I guess he was a creator who had stitched another creator, another person's video. It was a young lady, beautiful girl, and she said that she was saying how she was HIV positive, and how she does not have to. And I need you guys to hear what I'm saying. But she says that she does not have to disclose that she's HIV positive during the first conversation. First conversation, and he kind of stitched it from that, right? And it went on, and he was like, she should be locked up, and calling her all kinds of nasty names, and just really angry towards her. And of course, people in the comments, they were jumping in. It was like, she should be locked up. That she's not following the law, and all kind of stuff. All of this kind of talk, y'all, is ignorance, right? Because her point was, and I agree wholeheartedly, right? She was saying that she does not have to disclose that she's HIV positive before she goes on a date with somebody. I need you guys to stay with me and listen. There's a difference between have to, and every state has their own laws about the time frame or disclosure, right? So there's no blanket law. So that's just something that people made up in their own mind about, oh, well, you should tell somebody on the first conversation. There's no law about that. You know what I mean? You have to understand, somebody like me living with HIV, if I'm potentially getting ready to go on a date with somebody, I don't really know that person, right? Because I'm getting to know that person. So for me to share something so vulnerable or it's so deep and personal with somebody I don't know, I could be risking a lot of stuff. That person can take that information and go and spread it on the internet. You know what I mean? And add context to it that is not true. You know what I mean? It's so much behind it, right? And so I really wanted to talk about the stigma, because, and I hope you guys hear what I'm saying and don't misconstrue, because I know how people are, misconstrue what I'm saying. But the heat that we get, or that people with HIV get, like, and I saw people commenting, so yeah, that's why I'm celibate and stuff. A lot of that is cap, y'all. A lot of that is cap, because the culture that we live in, people are hooking up in the club. They're hooking up on apps. They're out here cheating on their wives, their girlfriends. So you can't tell me that the general consensus of people is like, oh, well, that's why I'm celibate. Because the reality is, a good portion of people do not even get an STD check on the person they get ready to have sex with in general anyway. And besides HIV, you have other things. You have syphilis, gonorrhea, chlamydia, all other kinds of STIs that come or can come through fun times. You know what I mean? But they were in there trying to eat her up, and he was really angry. And I'm like, y'all. I think a lot of it is for content too. But people say one thing online, but that type of narrative feeds into why people don't want to disclose, right? I had shared this. I had did a reel about this, a video about this for some time ago. But when I first found out I was HIV positive, I went to the health department. FYI, your local health department, you can get tested for free, right? You can get an HIV test for free. You don't even have to have insurance. Just go in there and get tested, right? So I went in there, got tested, and back then, and I don't know if they do that now because, like I said, I have HIV, so I go to my doctor every other month now to get my shot for it. But back then, what it would say is, you know, you go and get you're tested, and they say if we don't call you, then that means everything is fine, right? So if they call you, that means you need to come in for whatever. You know what I mean? So, like I said, I went in March 2007, got tested, no phone call, everything good, right? Go 6 months later in September, got a phone call from the health department. Like, hey, Dominique Evans, hey, can I see Dominique Evans? Yeah, this is him. So I was like, yes, this is such and such from the, I don't want to say the county, well, it don't matter, the Pitt County Health Department. We need you to come in to review some labs. So I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, well, I didn't know what it could be. HIV was the furthest thing away. I was like, well, maybe it's something like chlamydia or simply. I was only 21, so I didn't really know a lot about it, right? But I definitely wasn't thinking HIV. And I'm getting to the point about the disclosure and how it can ruin. People can take someone's positive status and really make it hard for them to be comfortable to share their story. Anyways, I go into the clinic, and I still remember what the lady looks like. I sit down, and she was like, "Hi," she's like, "Hey," she said, "We just want to go over your lab results." She was like, "You know, you tested negative for everything, but you did test positive for HIV." And I just kind of sat there. I didn't cry or anything. I just kind of sat there. I didn't get upset. I didn't get mad. I just looked at her because it just was like it just hit. I'm 21, y'all. You know what I mean? And so she told me I had HIV positive. She hands me this what you call them, the big I call them yellow envelopes that had a bunch of like pamphlets and some information about HIV, and she hands it to me. And then basically she was like, that was it. You know what I mean? She sent me on my way. There was no discussion, and to my knowledge, there was no discussion about, well, these are the next steps for you. This is what you need to do. You need to contact these people to get into treatment and stuff. This is why I'm developing a nonprofit organization, really to help create a bridge program for these people who find out that they're HIV positive, because a lot of people don't know where to go. They don't know who to talk to or anything. And I was living with my sister at the time. I have a younger sister and a younger brother. And me and my sister had an apartment. I didn't call my mom. I didn't call anybody in my family. I went straight home to our apartment. And I can't remember if my sister was already home. I think she had already been home. But I do remember coming in, sitting at the kitchen table, and she looked at me. Me and my sister are really close. I'm close to my brother, too. He's just younger than me. He's like 6 years younger than me. Me and my sister are like a year and some change apart. And she looked at me and she said, "What's wrong?" And I just started crying. I just started bawling. And through my tears, I told her that I was HIV positive, and she started crying. Because if I was 21, she had to be about 19 then, because she's like a year and some change. So she's like, 19. Yeah, she had to be 19 because I was 21 that year. So she was 19. And we just started crying. We cried because at the time, neither one of us knew a lot about HIV. All we knew was, all we had heard or had been seen on the internet, once you get HIV, that's it. You're going to die. You know what I mean? And I had a homeboy who I was really cool with at the time, who found out I was HIV positive. I didn't share with him, but he found out I was HIV positive from going through or noticing the pamphlets in my room. And from there, I didn't find out this until later, but he had shared with some people that I was HIV positive before I had a chance to tell them for myself. And any of you guys who know, any of you guys who know, any of you guys who know who have ever been, or those who may be positive, anytime. Hey, girl.
Hey there.
Hey, I was sharing. I was talking about the disclosure part, and I was telling the story about how my HIV status was outed immediately after I found out. You know what I mean? I was saying after I got home, I don't know how much you heard, but I got home from the health department after they told me I was positive. They just kind of handed me an envelope, the big envelope with a bunch of pamphlets in there. Didn't really give me the next steps, which is I was sharing with the chat was why I'm developing, and I've been thinking about this for years, was structuring a nonprofit to really strive, besides the education part, but just to help with a bridge program for these people who find out they're HIV positive, who don't feel the openness to share with people, but to guide them to and through the next steps. Because that was one thing I didn't have, right? It just was like, here's this information about HIV. I'm 21, you know what I mean, at the time. Here's this information about HIV. I don't mean to say it like this. It was kind of like, see you later. You know what I mean? But this guy who I thought was a friend of mine, you know, when you look back, sometimes you're just hanging out with people, you kind of, I'll be 40 next week. I think people use the term friend really loosely. But he had told people, a couple of people that was in our circle, that I was HIV positive. And I didn't find out until a few months later that they already had known. You know what I mean? But even that in my beginning stages of finding out that I had HIV already kind of made me feel like, okay, people are going to use my HIV status as some type of gossip or like some type of gotcha moment. You know what I mean? And this was from people who I thought I was cool with. You know what I mean? But I was sharing. How you doing today? First of all,
I'm black and alive today. When I
I know
say
that's
people
right.
made me earn my money, then people made me earn every dime.
Did it?
That is
I was.
why I'm late to the party. But then
It's
people
all.
made me, baby, they worked me to the bone. Gonna wipe me, you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's
Um, it was a day today. But
yeah.
as we have people come into the room, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Telly, founder CEO of Thrive Peace Pause, not-for-profit organization, Chicagoland based. These conversations be so crucial.
Yep. Yep.
It's crazy to me how many people will see somebody get on the internet rave about how they don't want HIV, they don't want AIDS. Second that motion, third that motion, fourth that motion, will read absolutely no pamphlets, will not ask the doctor any kind of questions,
Nope.
leave out things when they go to the doctor, don't
Yep.
tell the doctor the whole picture, the whole scope, but expecting to be treated for everything under the sun. Perpetuate stigma. We want to talk about people being positive, people not telling the story, but we're not going to talk about how we don't test regularly. We don't
Oh,
ask no questions. We don't read the pamphlets. As long as the test comes back negative, we stop right there. We don't ask about preventative measures. We don't ask what to do if we get exposed. And I can say that because I am talking to self as well.
yes,
Before
absolutely.
I was diagnosed 2.5 years ago, I didn't ask no questions. As long as the test was negative, I went on with my life. Never stopped and asked the doc, hey doc, if I get exposed or I think I'm exposed, how do I get treated? What do I do? Is there any treatment? What are the options? Never asked any of those questions.
Right.
And 2.5 years ago, I probably would have been right in the same group of people stigmatizing us because I have no real working knowledge or understanding of how HIV really works.
Right.
Do you understand what I'm saying? So these
Yep.
bridge programs are very pertinent, but also they need to be for the collective. People need to understand you have options. You have preventative options. You have treatment options if you think you've been exposed. All kinds of stuff. But unfortunately, in our black and brown communities, we're underserved.
Yeah.
disproportionately, and we are undereducated disproportionately. We are not taking the time to educate ourselves. And I be having to refrain from getting on Beyonce's internet and being unhinged because not us getting under like did you guys see Ply's post earlier this week?
I did. Well, so
Okay, the restraint I had to practice not
you
to
know,
respond to that foolishness, because
right?
here's the thing. I
Yeah, I
get
saw
it.
it. I do get
No,
it too. Yeah.
nobody wants to be paused, okay?
No, they don't.
I
No,
get that. And
we
I
understand.
second and third that. But what
We
we
get it.
not gonna do is
Right.
act like we just out here so perfect.
Yes.
What we not gonna do is pretend like body count is the only reason some of us are walking around with HIV, because body count had nothing to do with it. HIV
True.
ain't never been for the one who had 200 bodies no any more than it was for the one who had one body. What
Right.
happens when you caught it on time number one
Yep.
from one person? It didn't
Yep.
take being with 4, 5, 6, 7, 10, 15, 20 other people.
No.
But we want to fixate on body count. We want to fixate on Tom, Dick, Harry, Jane, Ashley, and Jack. That's what we want to fixate on, when the real focus has to be education,
Mhm.
right? So jumping into your lie without, getting too preachy,
You're fine.
like, for me, the restraint I have to practice. Cause
You know,
what nonsense are we spewing in these streets?
right. I saw another video. I had seen it on Twitter, but then somebody had stitched it because they love stitching, right? They love I don't know if you still there. They love stitching a video at the very moment to help fit whatever narrative to try to say that he was responding to Florida saying that they were stopping HIV medication. Well, I did see that, right? But the same sentiments still have it. Well, I didn't get the whole, maybe because somebody only split it. Because I did see that they were trying to stop the HIV, but the thing comes from people doing the work on their part to make sure they get tested and to make sure they're taking the preventative measures to stay safe. But I don't know if Telly, I don't know if something's going on with her live, but I was doing one of the main reasons, not the main reason, but one of the inspirations behind the live too was I saw another young lady and who had I may have talked about this already in this live, I can't even remember, but she was saying how she didn't, it wasn't her responsibility to share that she was HIV positive from the first conversation, and everybody was tripping, saying she was gonna go to jail and all this kind of stuff. I'm like, well, she has a point, because first conversation, we don't know you like that. You know what I mean? But when people, celebrities, well, I guess you want to still call Plies a celebrity. I don't know, but but when when positively me, yes, right. But when people who have a big following share those type of sentiments, because his whole tone, my thing was, what was the purpose? I'm trying to figure out, what was your point of making that video? You know what I mean? Because what are you already doing now? That's, why wouldn't you have been sharing those type of sentiments before? You know what I mean? The thing is, and I wish Kelly would come back, but well, she might have got problems. The thing is, the people that are HIV positive that are on treatment are not the concern. We are on treatment. Kelly, and those who are on treatment, especially those who have gotten their viral load down to an undetectable level, we are not the problem, in the sense of we're not putting anybody at risk. It's the people who have HIV that don't know or who are not on treatment that are the risk, the risk to you guys. You know what I mean? I don't understand. Like, I just, one person come at me in the comments when I was talking about dating. Tell her, are you there? I don't know if you can still hear me. But I had one person
I'm here.
I had this one person come at me in the comments when I was talking about dating, and was saying I would bring my boy Josh on as well, because I was talking to him. I don't know if he wants to join or not, but he put in the comments where well, HIV positive people should only we're gonna get into the dating thing because I had a little agenda because I didn't want to get all over the place, but I didn't want to be so structured where it's not natural. But he was like, only HIV positive people should only date HIV positive people. Like, what kind of mess is that?
Nonsense. It's nonsense.
Like, first of all,
It's complete nonsense.
I'm not laughing, but I'm like,
I'm calling a spade, the jack, the dummy. It's nonsense. It's not us out here trying to dictate whose preferences should be what.
right. Did you hear the part where I was saying too about the young lady? Very, very pretty lady. Not that it has anything to do with it, but she was fine to me. But she's HIV positive. You know how people love to stitch? I don't know. I wish we could find out if people stitch our videos because I know sometimes people take our content and try to stitch it and try to cut it off at the certain point and use it to feed their stigma. But she was saying that her video started was, I'm HIV positive, so it means she's sharing it openly on the internet. But she said, it's not my duty to share with someone that I'm HIV positive on the first conversation, right? And I know it kind of gets into like muddy waters because I know a lot of people may want that to happen, but also at the same time, and maybe my perspective is different. I've been living with HIV for a long time, and I have done that where I've shared HIV, that I was HIV positive, and they took that and ran with it, and it became like gossip, right? Because if we're going on the first date, I don't know you like that to share something so personal. You know what I mean? Like, I'm in not a situationship, but I'm kind of been getting to know an individual, but I had waited for a period of time to share with this person that I was HIV positive because I almost have like I don't want to call it like a vetting process, but like, dude, I'm almost 40. I'll be 40 on the 12th of this month. You know what I mean? So I ain't got time to be playing games with, so I am going to let you know early on, but I can kind of figure out, like, there's little cues and hints that I can learn through conversation. Like, I don't know if this person's going to be somebody that's going to be receptive and open. So it's not something I was like, boom. Right. I had it for almost 10 years, but I'm not sharing that stuff. Yeah, exactly. Right. You know what I mean? But to each his own. My thing is, and people have this whole blanket, like, with the law. Every state has their own laws about the disclosure. You know what I mean? And from my knowledge, some states don't even have a law about it. You know what I mean? So
State of Illinois doesn't.
Right. Well, I didn't know specifically, but I know there's some states that don't have laws, period. But while we're on that same token, let me calm down because my therapist told me to calm down when I'm talking. I get so animated. But while we're on this same token, why don't we have that same smoke for letting people know when you have syphilis, gonorrhea, or any other STI? Why is HIV the highlight of, well, you should let us know from the beginning? Well, why shouldn't somebody let you know they have syphilis before? You know what I mean? You don't hear nobody talking about that. You know what I mean?
Where you say, where's the energy for that? Where
herpes, gonorrhea, because the shade is, let me get closer. The gag is, but the gag is, she don't do that no more. But people don't understand, even with something like syphilis, if you contract syphilis, even if you get the shot or you take the pills, the HPV virus is still in you. You still have it. It just has lied dormant, the same way HIV lies dormant in me and my girl Telly, to where we can't spread it. It can't be passed, but it's still in you. Once you get it, it don't go away. It's not like,
you know what? Like, what? Tap my lips. Y'all know that's my thing to say. Y'all know what chap my lips? We believe the sciences on all the other chronic illnesses except for this one.
Yep.
We'll buy into the science of diabetes and insulin and all of that. We'll buy into that.
Right.
We'll buy into the science of high blood pressure. Let me pop this pill. I'll buy into that. We'll buy into the science behind lupus, preventative measures, if you can, from flares and things. We'll buy into that.
The COVID-19 shot that we all ran to get, we bought into that.
We buy into so many sciences except for this one. And I really believe it's because people truly believe it's 100% preventable. The problem is, while that's true, we don't do anything to actually prevent. Let me tell you something. I am the first to speak on this because 2 years ago, I don't know my life would look like what it does today if I had knew a fraction of what I know today.
Right,
And the
right,
only
right.
reason I know what I know today is because of lived experience. And you have some people who are really not really truly ready to have that conversation. That you
Yeah.
know what you know because you went through some shit and you ended up there. Which is
Yep.
that's the real gag, okay?
Yep.
The real gag is I know what I know about HIV because I ended up in these shoes. And I had to learn on a curve. But if I had taken some preventative measure and responsibility for self, I might not be living in these shoes. I might would have known I had 72 hours from the moment I was SA to get to the doctor.
Yep.
Didn't know because I never took initiative for self to ask any questions. Like I told you guys, as long as the test came back negative, I wasn't asking no questions. What do you say in that movie? Don't ask no questions. I wasn't asking no questions. It's
Yep.
negative. That's all I needed to hear. See you in 6 months, Doc, when it's time to test again. Yes.
It's 1760. I put it under my name.
Okay. I didn't ask any questions. Okay.
Yep.
And so when we have these conversations, I get animated too. Because we operate under a certain level of ignorance as people that we should be more comfortable.
Let me the man doing the video. I'm gonna send it to you. He was real stern faced. I think a lot of people do it for content too. They don't really believe what they say. They're just doing it because they're trying to get the views and stuff. But he went on to say like those who are infected should have some type of illuminated light so we walk around so people can just know that we have HIV. But my thing is, where is the smoke? Where's the
illuminated light for the narcissist? Where's the illuminated light for the fool who don't go get tested ever? Where's the illuminated light for the fool who don't wear protection and gonna tell you he don't like it or she don't like it? Where's the illuminated light for that?
My thing is, I was saying we live in such a strong, and I know there's other ways to contract HIV besides sex, but the main way that it's pushed is through sexual contact. But the way that people are hooking up in the club on these apps and stuff, you can't tell me you have the same passion for wanting to know the disclosure about somebody when you lay down with someone and you have no STD. I have a homegirl of mine. She has, ever since I know her, any person that she has dealt with, she can count on one hand how many people she has dealt with, and I believe her. But she has them go to the doctor to get an STD check before they have sex. You know what I mean? They go together. But people don't want to put that time and energy because it gets awkward or people don't want to know.
You might find yourself having to have conversations you don't really want to have. You might find yourself learning something about a person you really don't want to believe or you really don't want to talk about. Or people find themselves trying to explain things they really don't want to have to talk about. And that is that right now, that's the toxicity of the dating game, the dating pool, and the intimacy world. We all outside and everybody in their own business till somebody gets hurt. It ain't no fun when the rabbit got the gun. What happens when it's too late?
That's the thing, girl.
What happens when the damage is done?
Yeah.
What happens when the dust settles?
Yeah.
And we realized our willful ignorance on how we perceive something has costed us at a rate you weren't really sure you were prepared to pay for. And people who are living with this virus, we know that cost.
I work part-time at Olive Garden as a server, and there's a young man who is dating one of, there's a lot of little intertwining relationships. And I was trying to segue, he was talking about the girl, and I was like, well, how did y'all get to the point of living out loud? I can't seem to put my face on the diagnosis. Well, I'll answer your question. So, me and one of my relatives, because somebody asked how did we get to the point of living out loud? I can't seem to. So I've had HIV a long time. Like I keep saying, but because it's just amazing. God is so good. You know what I mean? I don't want to throw him in there, but he is the center of my life. You know what I mean? And I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for him. But it wasn't until last September when I had that one-on-one conversation with one of my relatives. We had never talked about it before personally. She knew, we knew, we had I had HIV, but when I had that conversation with her, it gave me the strength to kind of say if I had, and I told her, I told my mom, my sister, and my brother. I have a sister and brother. I told them, I was like, look, I'm thinking about, because I want to make sure, not necessarily asking for, I don't know what those hearts mean. I mean, those roses mean, but hey, but
They're gifts. But
oh
thank
well,
you.
oh
Yeah, they're
yeah, well they
roses.
appreciate it, but I'm so old, I don't get it, but I told them that I was doing this not necessarily for permission, but just so they know that I'm getting ready to come open. But for me, God has given me the confidence because I Telly have lived with HIV being the forefront of my identity, right? It's like HIV and then hey, I'm behind it, right? Versus me and then HIV is just a portion of who I am or a part of me, but it's not my whole identity. That's not everything I'm about. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? I do there's so many other talents and talents. And once I made that first video, I was on my way to church because September 14th, 2007 was on a Sunday, and I was on my way to church, and I did it. I said, hey, I openly shared it. I was breathing, and once I did that first video, it was all up from there. Because I'm like, it's out there now, but nobody can say anything to me online that can hurt me because I am who God says I am. You know what I mean? I don't care what people, these assumptions, some things do kind of irritate me because, again, it is from ignorance, but that's just how I came to it. I don't know if you want to add your part on it.
Sure. Something like that. I love that. I love being able to say it like that. I'm gonna second a lot of what he said. And I want your biggest takeaway from what he said and what I'm about to say is to be identity. Okay,
Yeah.
that's what I really want your takeaway to be from what we are pouring out to you is identity. Right? The reason you don't want to put your face to this diagnosis is because usually, like a name to a face, your name
Yeah.
is a part of your identity. Putting that tag, it's like putting MD at the end of somebody's initials, right? They acquired that, and this is part of who I am. That's kind of how HIV is. It's like saying Chantel, comma, HIV, or right, Dom, comma, HIV. It becomes a part of your identity because it's a part of your lived experience. But let me say this.
Yeah.
I'm going to second what Dom said. Faith has been a very large part. And I'm also going to say this. For anybody watching this who is questioning how we maintain faith, let me be clear about something. And
Girl,
I
don't
can't
do it.
speak for Dom, but I can only speak for me.
Come on now.
I am honest with the fact I was upset with God.
Go! Oh my God.
Okay? I will
mad.
die on this hill,
I was mad,
and
girl.
I'm good with that. I am honest with the fact I was upset with God because you said you loved me, and this doesn't feel like love. This feels like torture.
Mm-hmm.
And the moment I made up in my mind that this can't be life and there has to be a purpose to this level of pain, if you'll trust me with a blessing and that means you'll also trust me with struggle, there has to be some purpose behind this struggle.
Right.
Because
Yeah.
this is one of the most painful struggles I've ever encountered in my adult life, okay?
Yeah.
In fact, I'm going to say it is the most painful one, right?
Yeah.
Because it's bigger than just the treatment itself. It's one of emotion, it's a spiritual, it's a mental. You battle on a couple of different fronts with
Absolutely.
this, okay? And so I was honest with God. And I'll never forget, I actually made a TikTok about it. When I was honest with God about being angry with him, he took me to Jesus being on the cross.
Mm-hmm.
And Jesus said, God, why hast thou forsaken me?
Yep.
God never left Jesus, right? And this is how I know it's all a part of a bigger plan. And
Absolutely.
if you just indulge and follow me for a second, try to stick with me. Jesus was destined for the cross from birth, before the womb. Okay? Then he lived out what he was destined for. Always knew what he was destined for, anticipated what he was destined for, worked towards what he was destined for, got to his destiny and asked him, Lord, why you leave me? I know you lying. I know you lying. You done left me, although he always knew it was a part of the plan. So if Jesus himself can be honest with the maker about feeling left, about feeling forsaken, about feeling alone, about his pain. He even asked, if it be thy will, let this bitter cup pass me.
That's what
If
he said.
even Jesus asked to get out of providing salvation, how am I different? But guess what? He still had to live out the purpose. So I'm choosing to believe when you ask, how are we able to live out loud? There's some purpose behind this pain. And if
Exactly.
the purpose is me getting on these lives and telling y'all, if us getting on these lives and telling y'all, you do know there's more to the life, you do know we can save lives, you do know we have the ability to affect change.
Yes.
If that's all I have to do is talk about it, you learn to sit with that identity just a little bit more. It burns just a little bit less. It will make the sting a little bit less. And because let me tell you something. The Pharisees and Sadducees, they swore they had it. They swore they knew, they swore they had it, and they was wrong all along. So you're going to deal with people who swear they know everything, who swear they have all the information under the sun, and you don't need to tell them anything. People who are committed to being ignorant, people who are committed to misunderstanding, people who are committed to just not wanting to hear you, they're going to be that way. But the moment you accept there is something greater to your testimony, I guarantee you'll live out loud too. It's just getting past that initial hump of this is a part of my lived experience, and it's unfortunate. It's like we're treated like lepers.
Girl.
Do you understand what I'm saying? So I really want you to take your take may not be a faith one. Ours may be, and yours may not be, and that's okay. But I really want you to take away from this identity. Where does your identity lie? That's the question I want you to ask yourself. Is where does my identity lie? How do I feel about my identity? The moment you are able to sit with your identity and know I am who I am, status or not, I promise you, it'll look very different. And it's a process. It took Dom years. It took me one.
Yeah.
But let me tell you something. I'm a woman of faith. I'm a cussing Christian. Okay, I'll cuss you out. I'll cuss you from here to hell and pray for you. Okay,
Yeah.
I will pray for your salvation. I will. Okay, but the thing is, I just can't sit quiet.
Yeah.
Because I just know. I know that I know that I know. Underneath it all, this wasn't for nothing. This wasn't for nothing. So when we do these lives, I know it's easy to be like, Nemo, dear, all preachy. And I'm telling you, when you figure out that purpose, when you figure out what is driving the purpose behind this pain, you won't have any other choice but to live out loud. Any other way will feel wrong to you.
Yeah.
Does that make did I hit it on the head?
Yeah, you did. Yeah, you did.
Any other way is going to feel wrong. It's not going to feel authentic to you. It's not going to feel, hey, Dandelion. Any other way is going to feel like you are not being yourself. And the goal is to feel the most like yourself as possible. And so, I really hope that, we said something that can just spark a little light in your eyes and in your mind about your identity as an individual living with this virus. Because, baby, I guarantee you, living out loud is my favorite thing. And can't nobody ever make me be quiet. Because
I don't care anymore. I really don't.
At the end of the day, what's for, and you know what also I want to say before I pipe down, the moment part of what also, I won't say the moment, but a contributing moment to me accepting my identity was when I stopped giving a damn who went and who stayed. We are human, and it is natural in our human instinct to want to grasp onto things that are a constant in our world because they provide a level of mental, emotional, and sometimes physical security and safety.
Absolutely.
And so when we lose those things or they voluntarily walk out and leave us, it leaves us grappling for more, trying to fill in voids. One of the biggest contributing moments I had in accepting my identity is when I stopped giving a damn who stayed and who went, and truly accepted what God has for me is for me, and I won't have to beg for it. I have a beautiful black man that lays next to me every night on the other side of this bed. I didn't
Mm-hmm.
have to beg him. I didn't have to hide it from him. He knew within the first 5 minutes of expressing wanting to get to know me what my status was. Now, I know that's not everybody's story, but that was my story. And I didn't have to chase. I didn't have to beg. I didn't have to wonder. It was an understanding whether you stay or go. What you see is who I am. And you can accept me and love me, or you can go. It really ain't going to make a difference. And the moment I wrapped my brain around that, I was hell on 2 feet, okay? Because do what you want to do, sleep with who you want to sleep with, be with who you want to be with, have your
Yeah.
preferences and all of that. And guess what? I am still me. and that man loved me, right? So the moment we start wrapping ourselves around our identity, our purpose, and truly understanding what's for you will be for you, and can't nobody rob you of that, I
Yep.
promise you, living quietly will not be an option. It will be the furthest thing from your mind. And you'll be able to truly, eventually, the same way we're on here talking about that, you'll find yourself, maybe not on social media if that's not your thing,
Right.
you'll find yourself somewhere having a similar conversation going, I used to be just like you. You see what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? So,
Yeah.
like, I know sometimes I get preachy, but I'm really passionate, y'all, because we, when you living with HIV, it's easy to want to feel like you just ready to fall off the face of this earth
Girl, what you talking about? You know
because the
what?
weight, the
I think
weight.
yeah, the weight of it. I think for me, because I found out back in 2007, so HIV wasn't really talked about like that back in the, I call it the ancient times, but back then, you know what I mean? Sometimes I wonder how would life have been for me had I found out I was positive like now versus back in 2007, because it wasn't even I didn't even know. That's how ignorant I was too. I didn't even know that, because the stories I would hear about HIV back then, we're talking about back in 2007, it was like what's my man Magic Johnson. You know what I mean? So I was thinking like, oh, you had to have a lot of money to get on treatment. I didn't know that the options were there to get on medicine and stuff like that. I just turned 40. You are not. I know. Well, listen, I'm an elementary school teacher assistant. They tell me I'm old every single day. They call me uncle and all that stuff, which I am an uncle, so I guess it's really not an insult. But I'm just saying, a lot has happened from the 20 years. My life will end in 5 minutes. How that happen?
Wait, I just turned 40. I missed it. What happened?
My thing said, we have detected inactivity. Never mind, I did like a little puzzle thing. Does it mean it's going to end in five
Oh,
minutes?
yeah, you have to do the puzzle. Like, it's just to make sure you're actually still live, like
Oh,
active on your
okay.
phone.
I did the puzzle thing. I was like, well, I didn't say I was ending.
No, that's just to make sure you. No, that's my favorite juice. That's just to make sure you're still active on your life.
Oh, then we're not just sitting here not talking. Okay, I got it. I told you I don't understand this stuff. But I just wonder how things would happen. But like I said, I have it was a big step for me to share my story. It goes on to the part of the purpose, because I have shared to people that I was HIV positive in person. I do that quite often, when it's necessary, or when I feel it's necessary or when it's warranted to share my story. But when you go on the internet in front of and you're opening yourself up to the finger gangsters of the world today, people can get on here and say anything. And I will say, at least for me, since I've started sharing my story openly in September, I haven't gotten anything like that's been like too majorly, like, not to where I thought I was gonna get like these really horrific type of comments, like the guy that did the video on the girl. But I mean, they could be talking about me offline, but either way, you know what I mean. But where we was at when you came on, Kelly, is we were talking about the stigma. And one thing I wanted to talk about is, and I don't know if anybody who's on the live now or anybody who listens to it, if you came in contact where someone has told you that they were HIV positive, I was saying that the reaction from and I don't know your experience. A lot of times when I do share that I'm positive with someone, the first thing was like, "Oh, I'm so sorry," You know what I mean? And I laugh about it now because I'm like, I try to put myself in their position. I'm like, well, why are you sorry? You know what I mean? Like, for me, I'm cool. You know what I mean? But they look at it like, hey, what's up? They're like, oh, I'm so sorry. Or I love oh, I didn't know. Well, how would you have known if I didn't tell you? Like that again goes to this thing where like HIV got some type of look that you could just walk around and just identify. I think people equate HIV to like people who are like on the dying end of like AIDS or something. Like we have to look like that. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? And it's like the stigma around. I was talking about the that and the I don't know if you ever experienced of being like having your status like shared or gossip about because there was these people that was writing about it. I went to the call center. You know, that's the worst place to be at. For gossip, you don't look like you said. Oh yes, you don't look, girl. If they would have seen me when I had kidney failure, because that's another thing I went through. I had stage 3 kidney failure, and or they call it kidney cancer. I don't know, but nevertheless, I'm so grateful to God because if I make it to my birthday, which I'm praying to God, which is next week, it will be 10 years since I stopped dialysis treatment. Y'all can't see, but I have the you know a lot about. You know anything about dialysis?
Where the
Yeah,
ports and stuff and the
yeah.
different.
So for me, they started with a perm cap out of my chest,
Hmm.
and they did a port, and it clotted, so they did another one. But right before they started sticking me with my needles, my kidney function started to show some regaining function. So they were like, we want to hold off using your port because they were confused because from my knowledge, a lot of people don't get on dialysis and then come off. It's usually
No, usually if you get on dialysis with a lot of people, they'll get on dialysis and stay there either
yeah,
to the very end, if you
yeah,
will, or
yeah,
until they get the transplant.
yeah,
Very rarely do you hear about people recovering naturally on their own.
yeah.
Like that's
Uh-huh.
not a common
Right.
occurrence.
I was on it. My 30th birthday though, I had to go to dialysis. So like everybody was like celebrating their 30s. I had to go sit on a machine for 4 hours a day. So there was a lot of things that I had. There's been some ups and downs with. That's why I don't take having HIV because I have had it for so long, and my journey with HIV has been up and down. You know what I mean? I've had times where I was inconsistent with my medication, so my viral load had ramped up. I wasn't doing my part. I've had the shingles in my face before. It's a lot. You know what I mean? And so I really, when it comes to what was that? I don't got off track, but talking about how people react when like you don't look sick. I'm like, girl, if I show you this picture of when I was on dialysis, then you would know. You know what I mean? But y'all not tell me what you want me to look sick now. You know what I mean? I
They
told one of
have
my
this like misconception of what we look like, what we go through. Like again, like we lepers,
yeah,
like honest to God, like how many, I know a lot of y'all remember from like being in high school reading the book like the Scarlet Letter.
yes,
People legitimately want us to walk around with a scarlet H on our chest,
yeah,
like these are identifiers, and it's like you that you do know that's not the life we live in, right? You do know like
yeah. They don't
we
believe in
look
mine
like anybody else, and so like for me, when I do tell people my story, it is like, oh, but I mentioned this in a live I did before. I'm sure, can't remember if you had already left out or not, where I
either.
mentioned like, I'm very careful sometimes about how I present my story because I don't like it's not that I don't like it. Let me not say that.
I know what you mean.
Sometimes it makes me uncomfortable when people be like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I'm going to pray for you. Don't pray for me.
No, first of
Let
all,
me tell you why.
let
I
me.
know, and this is gonna chap my lips, but you gonna understand why in a second. Nothing chaps my lips more than when people find out your story and they're like, "Oh my God, I'm gonna pray for you. This is so sad." And the second I look like I'm happy or like I'm winning in life, but what about your HIV? What exactly were you praying for? My downfall? Because I
Yeah.
thought that was the goal of the prayer was for me to thrive. Why are we bringing up my status now? Why is
Mhm.
that even a conversation or a topic? The idea is for me to thrive, and you talking about, but you're still HIV positive. I mentioned dating. You don't think you should just focus on your status? No, I don't think I should be focused on my status. The only person focused on it is
People don't,
you. Okay?
people don't know. I've been married. I was married for 5 years.
Like
Had a whole wife
it's
and everything.
literally
And
like
she,
people think we cease
and she
to
was
exist as
look
humans and we
and look.
start being a diagnosis, literally. And
I,
I'm like,
I,
it's
I'll tell
ghetto.
people that
Leaving the air stinks vibes.
I'll share with people. I was like, well, I got married when I was 26, and the first thing was like, well, did she know you were HIV positive? I'm like, yes, she did. And she married you anyway? Well, yes, she did. Like, what do
Like
you know?
you're
If she, I'm
like you're
sorry,
not
but it's like,
capable of deserving of that. That was one of the first conversations. Especially I've never asked my boyfriend what the conversations were like from people that
y'all,
knows,
y'all just
but I also don't believe he makes it common knowledge the way I do that I am positive in his
right,
circle.
yeah.
But it was like, does he know you're HIV positive? Nah, we just lay up.
I'm telling you, but he don't know or she don't
Right.
know.
I'm on the internet. I'm telling, thousands of strangers who scroll past my videos on positive, but he don't know. What is wrong with you people?
I don't
Give me
know.
my brains. Okay? And so I get real like I get real animated, as Dom said earlier, because the level of willful, like, for lack of a better word, ignorance that people operate in will blow your mind. And just when you think you've heard all the ignorance there could possibly be to hear, someone surprises you with a new thing. And it just blows your mind because you're like, they let you drive a car?
Yeah. Oh,
You
I get
talking
the bill.
on your phone today?
Someone's like, was she still negative the whole time? Like, yeah, she was. Like, she was. She was on prep. You know what I mean? Like,
And here's the thing: a lot of people are scared to have this conversation, but we gonna have it today. Some people just choose not to take prep.
they don't. They do.
Some people who have partners, they choose to wrap it up or make sure that their partner's taking care of themselves so
Yeah.
that they are taken care of, right? You have some partners who don't want to take the prep, but because their partner who is positive is getting those doctor's visits, they are consistent with their meds, their viral loads are in suppression for months or years at a time, uh, they have nothing to worry about.
Mm-hmm.
So
Can we
at that point, prep really is an option.
can we put
You
a
yes or no.
I want to put a point in this real quick because I was saying before you got on live, I do karaoke from time to. I'm a singer songwriter, and I go out and do karaoke. And one of my classmates, we've been out of high school now, what 22 years, something like that. And a lot of my classmates, of course, didn't know I had HIV until I started sharing it on social media. Some of them knew because there was a little wave where I was sharing it before, and then I kind of withdrew because I got nervous about who was going to find out, and that was a few years ago. But now, as we were talking, and I want you to kind of add to it as well. She didn't know. She's 40. She just turned 40. She, as a 40-year-old, didn't know that people who are positive can become what we call HIV undetectable. And I also want to talk about that. Sometimes that word undetectable, people like to equate it as like we're trying to say that we're negative, like we will show up. And sometimes we can show up negative on, but we're not going around saying undetectable, meaning we don't have the virus. It just means that the viral load that we have in us is suppressed to where we cannot pass it. So it's almost like undetectable. You want to kind of add your points on that because I was talking about that earlier about the not knowing that this is a possibility. You know what I mean? For us.
After a while, now this could be the teacher in me in the instinct or the sense of, how once you educate or inform a person on something,
Yeah.
the expectation is that they operate on the information given.
Yes.
After a while, I quit feeling a level of sympathy for people who could pick up the same books I picked up.
Yeah. Right.
Right? But at the same time, to the point of undetectability, the knowledge about what it is comes from those informationals. They come from these conversations. They come from those talks with your doctor. They come from pamphlets. They come from a lot of different places. What
Yeah.
I really think it boils down to is a willingness to accept it
And believe it. Yep.
and believe it. Okay.
Yeah.
You can read a book, you can get the information, it's in plain English for you. I can read it, you can understand it. But if you don't believe or buy into the information divulged to you, it means nothing. And I think we have a population of people, a generation of people who do not buy into the validity of these sciences. This goes back to what I said about we buy into the science behind so many other chronic illnesses. Be
Yeah.
clear, HIV is not a sentence. It's a chronic illness by law these days. This is why it is decriminalized in so many states, including my own, because it is a chronic illness, meaning it is something you can live with. You go on, you take your medicine, life continues. It's a chronic illness. People are buying into the science behind all the other chronic illnesses. They ask no other questions. They take the medicines. They go on with their lives. But when it comes to this chronic illness, because we have lost influential individuals, because of the old science,
Yes.
because of the old medicine, because of the old way of life, we're not buying into the science of new medicine.
Yeah.
We're not buying into the effectivity of current treatment. We still think, a lot of people are still thinking the year is 89 and Easy just died or something, or whatever year that was, right? And it's just like,
It was a while.
that's not the times we live in. How come technology and science is good when you get a new cell phone, but the time we start talking about medicine, all of a sudden we skeptical?
Mm-hmm.
The reality is the science is the science, and we are living proof of the science. But if you don't buy into the validity of the science and you want to play skeptical about this one,
Right.
you're going to always be skating a fine line. You're going to always be pointing the finger. That's the part that bothers me. Is right now currently the climate of the generation that we're living with, the climate of people that we're dealing with when it comes to HIV. We're living in a time of finger pointing. Who to blame? Is it the person who's living with it to blame? Is it the person who's not getting tested to blame? Is it the person who didn't know to go get tested to blame? Is the person who didn't have the hard conversation to blame? Who is to blame? And so it's easier to point fingers at who is to blame for why there is a widespread going on than it is to educate and then self-empower using your preventative options. Because what that requires is a level of self-reflection and accountability.
Mm-hmm.
But if we're all looking to point the finger on who to blame, you're not worried about reflecting or accountability. You're worried about whose fault it is, right?
That's
So-
the number one question I get asked when I share my story. They're like, "Do you know who you got it from?"
I hate getting asked that. I don't actually get asked that very often, but
I
that's
do.
because I've made it very clear from the very beginning, I will never out that man. And it is not
Yeah.
because I have loyalty to him. It is not because I owe him anything. It is not because I did something wrong. It's not because I'm still in cahoots with him. That man essayed me and took something away from me I'll never get back. But outing him is not going to change. My family is just now coming to terms with they have no idea who this man is. Don't nobody but CPD, God, and me know who this man is. On purpose.
Right.
When my father recently confronted me about why I never told my family who he was,
Right.
I said, Dad, I know you, I know my brothers, I know my cousins, I know y'all. I can live with me on my conscience. I can live with my reality. I can live with my truth. If something happens to one of you, either in measures of mortality or freedom, I can't live with that. That will take me to my knees. I was already robbed of one thing. You're asking me to potentially be robbed of another.
Yeah.
I will never out because ultimately, even if you did put him 6 down, I'm still going to wake up like this tomorrow.
Yeah. Right.
if the man was right in front of me today and I was able to ask, why did you do this to me? It won't ever matter what answer he gives. None of them will ever be good enough for why I'm going to wake up like this tomorrow. Why I woke up like this last year or last week. It's never, there is no answer. The only person who has the answer is God himself. And given even he didn't see fit to heal me of this, but rather to make me strong enough to endure, at some point you have to just say enough finger pointing. How do I live for today? How do I get through today? How do I bring purpose to the pain? How, as long as you can do that, that should, at some point, you have to let that be enough, right? Because I guarantee you, Dom, as he's nodding in agreement with me, I'm sure at one point he wanted to confront the person or another. He wanted to confront the person who might have been the cause for this or who was the cause for this.
I want to give a different perspective on that. And this is why I feel like that question can be a little harsh, right? I'm going to be totally honest. And when I say this, I'm not saying it in terms like a lot of partners were involved, but I really don't know what's the word?
Solidified?
Yeah, right. I should know what that the exact because let me the truthful moment, y'all. When people ask a question like that, it can go and make somebody internal. Let's say somebody has had multiple partners, right? So you really don't know who you got it from, right? So then what it does to the person, like somebody like me, I'm past it now, but it can make them go into a ball of shame because you don't have an answer. So then what some people will do is make up scenarios to fit a narrative because they don't want to be honest about the truth of some people contract HIV simply because they've had partners or partners and they weren't sure. Because let's be clear, if you don't get tested often enough time can go by, you don't really know who it was. You know what I mean?
Can't pinpoint where ground zero was.
Right?
Absolutely.
My honest truth is I can be honest and say I don't know who I got it from. But me saying I don't know automatically to some people like, well, dang, he must have been out here hoeing. You know what I mean? Or sleeping with 1,000 people. No, it just I didn't know because the time frame. Now, granted, I got tested in March of 2007, didn't have anything, was completely negative. 6 months later, boom, I have HIV. But the time frame that HIV can show up could be different in different people. So the time frame could be anybody in the time frame of almost a year. You know what I mean? It really doesn't. So it doesn't mean that I was out here sleeping with other people. I just don't have an answer to that question. And if I'm being truthful in this moment, I have not shared this with anybody. I have made up. I didn't make up I got sexually harassed or assaulted or anything, but I have made up scenarios to kind of soften the blow because I didn't have an answer. Does that make sense?
No, it makes sense because, and by that soften the blow point, it's to kind of just
Take the
ease
blame off
off
of me and put it
the
on
judgment that comes with I don't know.
Yep.
When you have a definitive answer or a definitive person,
Yes.
you get a little less judgment.
Yep.
When you don't have a definitive answer, on top of the already judgment for the virus itself,
exactly.
Now it's the speculation of, well, damn, how did you get this way? What do you mean you don't know? You don't know who you laid down with? Okay, well, listen. In the culture of we outside, maybe not, right? But that speaks to the toxicity of that kind of culture, It's fun and games when nobody is hurt, when nobody has lost anything. It only becomes noticeable how toxic we outside kind of dating culture is when somebody gets hurt. So I completely understand that sentiment. I got it from someone I was in a relationship with, but he knew he had it. He had it before I met him. Goes back to the point of everything we're talking about here, about how people sometimes they know, sometimes they don't. Sometimes you have people.
I said the CD. The last time I looked, a few weeks ago, it said 1 in 8 people are diagnosed with HIV or have HIV.
Little side note, I'm really thinking about doing a post about. I had only one other partner within a year span of that contraction,
Uh-huh.
but to be sure that it was the person who essayed me, I went back to that other person and asked, just to be sure, because I knew that I knew that I knew it was the person who essayed me.
Right.
But I needed to know for sure it wasn't anyone else. So I went back to that one before that.
Yeah.
And he went and got tested. And when
Yeah.
that test came back negative, that only confirmed what I already knew that I knew. But
Right.
imagine the fallout of going back to your previous partners to tell them you're HIV positive. Do y'all have, like, for those of you who are not HIV positive, can you imagine getting a phone call from somebody you are intimate with? And
Mm-hmm.
that's the news that they deliver, and then they tell you, hey, you probably should go get tested too, because they don't know, or they're not sure, or they just need to verify. Can
Right.
you imagine getting a phone call like that? If getting a call like that will bring you to your knees, imagine being the person who got the actual diagnosis.
Yeah. I was sharing. I still remember because I went to a health clinic. I was telling you, like, look, you can get tested for free at your local health clinic. Most clinics will test you for free. And I remember the lady. I remember what she looked like and everything. She had a short haircut. She was kind of bushy like. But she looked at me and told me when she told me I was HIV positive. I just sat there. I didn't cry or anything. I just sat there. She handed me this packet of information about HIV and was like, "Do you have any questions?" And of course, I'm like, "No." And then she sends me on my way. You know what I mean? Do you want to know something? My family didn't know for 5 years. The only person in my family, and I don't need any judgment, but he said the doctor was lying. Of course, you know what I mean? But I didn't share openly with my family until 5 years after that when I got really, really sick, and they kind of just figured it out from then. You know what I mean? Because I had the look of it then. My viral load had gotten really high. My CD4 count had gotten really low at that point. It was a lot going on. You know what I mean? But I didn't, because I know my I just went into a bubble where I just hid it from people. You know what I mean? So if you can hide it from family, just imagine like people who don't tell their partners. What you got a big thing of Chinese food? What is that? I'm already hungry.
What'd you say?
I said, what you got a big thing of Chinese food? What is that?
Yes, it's beef fried rice.
It's like a big one. Crazy.
We're feeding the family over here.
I know that's right. But yeah, man, it's he said the doctor was. Oh yeah, I already said it. Yeah, he said the doctor was lying. Well, you know, clearly, the doctor is not lying. You know, what I mean, these people kill me. You know,
What's wrong?
huh? Oh,
Sorry, guys.
you're fine. But getting on. I guess we still talk about the stigma of. It took me a while to really understand and come to terms. It even affected how I took my medication because I was really, I was going through a big thing. I guess we was talking about the mental health, but we can talk about that now. But the mental health of having HIV for me, it just really took a long time to just come to terms that I have the virus. You know what I mean? I was out here not being consistent. Well, yeah, all over the place. Girl, let me tell you something. People don't understand, and I'm sure Kelly is listening. And everybody's journey is different. For me, as far in advance as medication has had, it took me a hard time to just take a pill every day. For me, I was thinking for me, every time I took that pill, it reminded me of the fact that I have HIV. And at that point, I was so young. Yeah, I didn't have counseling or anything, and that's another thing too. Like the counseling or having somebody to, I was throwing. I remember after me and my ex-wife had split up. I was going through a lot. It was a lot of depression that I was going through at the time. I had moved out of state, which is not something that you do when you have HIV, because if you're not, you don't properly transfer, your care to the state that you're moving. I wound up moving unexpectedly. I just kind of went out of state for my birthday and then wound up staying there. I got a job. Didn't have any insurance coverage or anything like that. So I wasn't taking my medication. I had it, but I wasn't taking my medication regularly. And as I touched on before, if you're not consistent with your medication, the virus is smart. HIV is smart, y'all, and it will start developing. It will start in a simple term. It will start developing its own resistance to that medication, and then you're taking it, and it's not even helping anymore. You feel me? But I remember.
I'm listening, by the way.
No, you're fine. I wound up having, while I was out of state, I had locked jaw. My jaw had locked shut, so I couldn't eat. So I lost a lot of weight. Mind you, I'm out of state with no family. My dad lived there, but none of my base family was there. And I wound up coming. I had to catch a Greyhound back to North Carolina. Was in the hospital for a month. They had to put a feeding tube in my stomach, or a feeding tube in me, because I was so malnourished because I wasn't able to eat. And at that point, that was the lowest. I was 29, going on 30. That was the lowest point. Now, at that point, I had HIV for about 7 years, but that was the lowest point for me. And even though the doctor had put me on medication, I was living with my grandmother because she was taking care of me during that time that I was on dialysis. She was making sure, God bless her soul, she's still living today. She's about to be 83 in April. And that lady was making sure I got up and I went to treatment. And it was to the point I was going through so much depression and at times suicidal thought. I was throwing my medication in the trash can, y'all. Like I would, instead of taking my medication, my pill, I was just throwing it away. And I know people from the outside were like, well, why wouldn't you just take that pill? You know what I mean? That's all you had to do. But y'all, it's the mental, it was a mental anguish that we go through. And everybody's situation is different. But for me, it was such a mental thing that I was dealing with, because I was like, well, I'm always having low self-esteem also was a big factor in it too as well. You know what I mean? I'm like, who's going to love me with this virus? Like, because I felt like I kind of lucked up on, getting married, because I met her live visibility restricted for 10 minutes. What does that mean?
Great question. I have no idea.
It says live visibility restricted for 10 minutes. Your live is not eligible for recommendation and restricted in search result for the next 10 minutes because your live does not comply with the 4UP eligibility standards under our community guidelines. Reason, mental health. What does that mean? What is that? Did I say I am not allowed to say the mental health?
I have no idea. Probably, because you mentioned the S word.
Oh, see, girl, I don't know the rules.
You need to learn the rules. So you can't, certain words that are triggers for stuff like this,
Oh my
you
God.
can't say. So
Okay.
you have to say unalive instead of.
Oh, I understand. Okay, well, that's news to me. Again, I don't go live often. This is like I think my second time going live. Almost everyone I know who contracted HIV was literally on their breaking point. Listen, I'm telling you. Look, it's so it will take you there. And again, for me, that's where my faith came in to really bring me back to a point now where if people really knew the whole full scope of my backstory, they're like, how in the world do you have a smile on your face today? You know what I mean? But y'all, I was at a point where I was just looking at the medication, throwing it in the trash can, and my grandmother had I remember she went to the trash can to throw something away, and I used to throw it in the trash can and then hide it, like put something, like move something around so they would kind of like fall down to the bottom where she wouldn't see it. But it had gotten to the point where I had to take my medication in front of her. You know what I mean? She made me take my medication in front of her to ensure that I was taking it because I had lost all kinds of hope. You know what I mean? I didn't know. I didn't. I even though I had gotten undetectable before in the past, because one person had asked, "Can you be undetectable and then not undetectable and then go back?" Yes, you can, because I have. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
It's all about being consistent with your treatment. So I knew the I had been in the state of being undetectable, but getting divorced and then at the time, and I don't want to say this because I don't want people to turn away from, because I am in church now, but that particular church had turned their backs on me, and I had really gravitated to the church to be my family because I was open with them about my HIV status before my actual family at the time. You know what I mean? And I felt like they turned their back on me, so I got into a place where I was just like low in the dirt, like in the gutter, like I was just ready to just risk it all. You know what I mean? And
So I
so,
wanna I
you know,
wanna chime in if it's okay.
yeah, you can.
Um, so unfortunately I can't be on live too much longer. I actually have one other thing I have to do with my daughter, so I'm gonna have to go in a few minutes. But I want to say
Okay, that's
this
fine.
to the point of what Dom is talking about: meds, triggers, what it does to your mental. I want people to step outside the mindset for just a moment of who's gonna love me like this, and really look at the mind of a person who is cycling through the stages of grief.
Mhm.
Okay, when you lose a person, you can conceive with your mind a physical person is not coming back. And that kind of helps with the acceptance process, grieving.
Yep.
But what happens when you are grieving a person you see every time you look in the mirror?
Mhm.
What happens when you grieve a piece of yourself because who you were before this diagnosis is not who you are after? You are essentially grieving yourself, and you are
Mhm.
living, breathing, and you see yourself every time you look in the mirror.
Yep.
I remember talking through with a family member maybe a few months after I was diagnosed how I was doing. She took me to dinner and she's like, I'm not saying I'm worried about you because you don't need to be worried about me being worried, but I am saying I just need to check on you. And I said, let me tell you something. When you get sick, there is no question of if your body is going to respond.
Right.
The question really is how long will it take to respond? But there will
Right.
never be, your body is hardwired to respond. If I get sick, depending on what it is, it may not.
Right.
Imagine looking in the mirror, seeing yourself, and not knowing how to care for yourself, not knowing what is going to happen if you stop taking those pills, being
Yep.
upset because every time you have to pop a pill, you ask yourself questions you don't have answers to.
Mhm.
Why me? How did this end up like me? How did I end up like this? What if you're
Yep.
like Dom and you don't know where it came from? You
Mhm.
don't know the time frame that it came from. You are asking yourself 10,000 questions with no answers. And that is only sending you down a further downward spiral. So
Yep.
that loss of hope he is talking about is the spiral you go down when you are asking, when your brain and body are asking for answers it does not have. And you realize your your life, your mortality is hanging in the balance of can you mentally withstand taking this pill every day?
Absolutely.
You realize that. Or what if you're like me and every time you get that treatment or that shot or take that pill, you remember being held down.
Yep.
You remember crying. You remember feeling robbed. You remember feeling silent. You remember coming out of flight, fright, or freeze. You remember freezing because you just wanted to make it home.
Yep.
You remember telling this person, I don't want this. And they did it anyway. What
Mhm.
happens when the flashbacks hit and it all replays? And now you're asking me to stay just level, just long enough to take this treatment. Only every time I take this treatment, we go down this deep, dark spiral of how we ended up here.
Yeah.
Right? So, what he's talking about is the mental spirals we go through grieving how we ended up here, grieving the reality, grieving the dependency on medicine,
Yep.
grieving the world that we live in because it doesn't accept us, it doesn't see us, it sees our diagnosis long before it ever sees us. And that's assuming its eyes ever open up just wide enough to actually see us beyond what a diagnosis is.
Yep.
We're grieving all of those things. Now, do that every day.
Grieving the life before our diagnosis. You know what I mean?
Grieving the life before.
The kind of like the care. Not to cut you off, but I sometimes think of the times. And great, it's been a long time, almost 20 years. But I think about those times where like I was carefree, like I didn't have to think about, okay, do I, even now, like just making sure, okay, I don't miss my shot date because you know what I mean,
Even
like
simpler things.
you
You
know what I
go
mean,
out
like
with your friends and you see a fine girl. Your brain doesn't go 10,000 places on the what ifs of when you maybe have to tell her what it is.
yep,
Grieving, what he just mentioned was a little bit more complex. We grieve the simple things. We grieve going out with our friends and starting conversations with people we're interested in. Now, I'm not doing that anymore because I'm in a relationship, but for my single individuals, can you imagine what goes through a person's mind every time that good-looking girl or that good-looking guy smiles at them and they're showing signs of interest? And
or
instead of just being and reveling in the moment, like, man, somebody finds me of interest, you worried about, oh my God, how am I going to tell them what's going on? How are they going to respond to what's going on?
or even grieving the times I've in my years, there have been times where I've been in the process of dating somebody or getting to know somebody, and then I find the moment to get the not courage, but to tell them, and that I made sure I be positive, and then I'm waiting. You know what I mean? I'm waiting to see, does that same momentum continue? I had a situation where I was talking to an individual. I mean, the communication was daily. I mean, we were talking on the phone daily. Everything was fine. I told him I had HIV and everything was still okay. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, just ghosted. You know what I mean? I have to grieve. I have built up a tolerance for it now, but I have to I've grieved for the moment where that wasn't a factor for dating for me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm always
Like,
risking my heart.
I
Whenever
really want people to see this side of HIV. They see the factual side, they see the stigma side, but I really want people to start seeing the humanistic side and understanding even grief plays a role into that. Even understanding that we lost a part of ourselves. And you know what's interesting with the grief aspect, and I'm gonna have to get ready to go here in a second,
I don't know
is
how to type it. I can't type messages back. I don't know how to send a message. So you'll tell me afterwards. Like you're responsive people. I don't know how to. I don't see the button to do that.
it's a little bit harder to do when it's your live. When you're just in on the live, it's a little bit easier to do. But when it's your live you're running, there's so many other things on the screen going. It's a little harder to do. You can do it, but you have to do other things to do it. But what I wanted to say was this. What we're talking about is wrapping your mind around the mental concepts of feeling voids. That's essentially why you grieve, is because there is a void that is irreplaceable and unfillable. And it doesn't matter if you fill it with drugs, it doesn't matter if you fill it with alcohol, it doesn't matter what you try to fill it with, you'll never fill it. Right? If you lose a loved one, if you lose your mother or your grandmother, no one in this world can replace that. So now imagine losing a piece of you.
Yep.
And trying to figure out how to fill that void. Trying to ask questions you don't have answers to. One of the hardest parts about people asking you about your diagnosis or how you ended up there is trying to answer their question for them, and you don't even have it for you. You want me to answer for you, but I don't even have it for me. So now here I go again. I'm back down this spiral of, oh my God, how did I end up like this, right? And so You know, when you're, for anybody in this live who may not be positive, or maybe you know someone who is, I want to make one thing before I leave you guys very clear. The importance of seeing them and not their status in the virus, excuse me,
Come on.
is potentially life-saving,
Yes, it is.
because you don't know where they are in mental emotional capacity. This virus doesn't just wipe you out physically, it is wiping people out by the thousands, mentally and emotionally,
Yes, it will.
because they are not able to withstand the mental and emotional capacity and taxing bounds and hurdles that they have to jump, trying to survive in this skin, feeling unseen, unheard, and unloved.
Right.
And so when you guys hear what I'm saying, hear this from your heart and not just your ears.
Hmm.
You have to love on people regardless of what they are enduring and regardless of how it scares you, because you have the potential to save a life. Maybe
Yeah.
you don't get it. Maybe it doesn't click in your mind. Maybe you do have some skepticism, but you know what? To still say, I see you past your virus. I see you past this thing you have, and you're worthy of being cared for. You're worthy of having unjudgmental friends. You're worthy of having healthy relationships in spite of that. We need you here is life-saving.
Hmm.
They are battling through enough trying to be at peace with receiving a diagnosis like that. Because I can remember in the first 2 minutes of the doctor talking to me and telling me my diagnosis, the first thing that crossed my mind is, am I going to get to see my baby grow up?
Hmm.
Am I going to make it? You cannot tell me I went through all of this stuff in life, dealing with other people's addiction, growing up as a kid, becoming a single mom at 19, parenting as a single mom through my entire 20s,
Yeah.
overcoming this hurdle, overcoming that hurdle, and this is going to be the thing to take me out.
Yeah.
To wonder or worry about something like that is shattering. And then when you have people at your neck because they don't like it, or it scares them, or it freaks them out, or they can't wrap their minds around it, it will make you ready to just be like, all right, Lord, at any moment, I'm ready to call it quits.
Yep.
Right? So I really want to behoove and encourage my non-HIV collective out there who are listening. Love on people. Even
Hmm.
if you don't understand, love on them till you do understand. Even if it doesn't make sense, love on them till it does make sense. See them as a person, not a stigma,
Yes.
not a misbelief, not a false belief,
Hmm.
not your fears. Don't see them wrapped up in your fear of the what ifs. See
Yep.
them as a person and love on them. I love you guys. Thank you guys for tuning in. I'm going to leave you with Dom. But with that, hit the follow button, hit the like button, hit the share
Yeah.
button. Make sure you guys tune in to the next lives.
Yeah.
I will be out of town this week, but catch me in at a live at my profile, Telly underscore TPP on Mondays. I will be back live Monday, 6:30 Central Standard Time, because I'm here in Chicago. So I love you guys. Please take care of each other. See you guys on Monday.
Thanks for joining. I'm here to wrap it up too, because it's been I joined at 7 and it's on 9, so it's been like 2 hours. It didn't feel like 2 hours though. We got a lot accomplished. I mean, it was
Not at all. Yeah.
really
I'll
deep
see you
conversation.
guys soon.
Yes, but the most important thing before I end and hop off too is y'all just get tested, okay? You know, be responsible and get tested, right? That's the only thing I can tell y'all, or not the only thing, but the main thing is get tested, y'all. It's important, and really be. I really appreciate you guys coming on here. I don't go live often, but I want to try to start doing it once a week or so, just to get out there and because I get such an empowerment. Again, y'all, I've had HIV for a long time, 18 years, but it's given me so much confidence to move on, even though I know that I am positively affecting and sharing information to one or a couple of people. I get DMs all day, every day from people, who ask for advice, or they tell me they appreciate me sharing the information, because people don't talk about it like that. You know what I mean? I'm a young black man out here doing my thing, and just really being an advocate and ambassador for HIV. So again, I appreciate you guys, those that have been on here, off and on for the last 2 hours. I appreciate it. Good live. I thank you for that. And those who are positive, that are watching this live, or who may see clips of the live when I post it, y'all, we are in this thing together. Stay on top of your treatment. I have a young, not a young guy. He's about a year younger than me. He's also positive, and I'm staying on top of him. He's, again, struggling with the mental aspect of, staying on this treatment, even though he's seen me positively come from where I come from, you know what I mean? But we have to encourage each other to be out there. And if you're not positive, make sure that you're sensitive about what you say and the questions that you ask to those who are positive, because you never know who you could be dealing with that may be positive, and you don't want to offend, you don't want to make people go into a bubble where they don't want to share their story or be responsible. You know what I mean? So with that being said, I do want to leave with a song, because at the end of the day, God has been good. So I would say, to God be the glory. To God be the glory. To God be the glory for the things He has done. All right, y'all have a good night. All right, peace and blessings.